Mina and Ryan back, and if you saw this headline coming, give me some lottery ticket numbers, because I can tell you, we didn't, and barely anybody did. Not a single team selecting in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft, selecting Shedeur Sanders. Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, led FBS in completion percentage, 4th in passing yards, and yet he is still out there. Just a couple months ago, he was in the conversation for the top pick. Heck, right before the draft started on Thursday, he was minus 600 to go in the first round, and he is still undrafted. NFL draft analyst Jordan Reed now joining us from Green Bay. Jordan, you had Sanders graded as your top 20 in your pre-draft rankings. So what's your quick reaction to him falling this far?
The best way to put it, Ryan, is I'm stunned. I'm absolutely floored that Shedeur Sanders is still sitting here on the board. And if you think about it, I think it's more so to do with what's happening off of the field. Now, as far as those questions, I don't know exactly what there are. But if we're just grading the player on the field, I don't see a player that should have made it out of the second round. I had him ranked as my number 19 overall player. He can help a team win football games as a starter. And some of the quarterbacks that went ahead of him, I was floored by some of the names that went ahead of him. I get it. Jackson Dart and him were seen as in a similar tier as going as the second or the third quarterback off of the board. But after that, some of the quarterbacks that went ahead of him, I'm still shocked.
It's stunning. And not only that, you talk about how quarterbacks are these days. You need 2-3 quarterbacks on your team, and he's still out there, so somebody's going to get him. Now, what's a potential landing spot for him as you see it?
I still see the Pittsburgh Steelers at 123 overall. They have the 21st pick today in the 4th round, so I could see them taking him. But once again, they've already passed over him twice. They did it in the 1st round when they selected Derek Harmon, and then they did it yesterday in the 3rd round when they selected running back Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. So what's different? They possibly could pass on him again if you didn't select him on day 2. Now, why would you select him on day 3? What's the difference? So I still see the Pittsburgh Steelers as a logical landing spot just because they don't have a starting quarterback right now outside of Mason Rudolph. They've gone back and forth with Aaron Rodgers, but he still has yet to decide what he's going to do. I believe Shedeur Sanders could come in right away and be the starting quarterback in Pittsburgh, especially for a team that just signed DK Metcalf to a big-time long-term extension. You still have George Pickens there as well. They need a starting quarterback. Shedeur Sanders will be a great option for them.
Yeah, he's got the toughness, he's got the skills, he's got the accuracy. We'll see if somebody picks him up today at the draft. All right, so now we're in through 3 rounds. Which team for you has had the best draft so far, and why?
I think the New England Patriots have knocked it out of the park. They had a major question mark at left tackle. They take one of the best left tackles in this year's draft, in the LSU offensive tackle, Will Campbell. He's going to be penciled in as their day 1 starter. After that, they come back and they get Travion Henderson, who was my 3rd-ranked running back. He could have went potentially as high as Denver as number 20 overall. They get him at the top of the 2nd round. Kyle Williams, a very underrated receiver out of Washington State. They have 14 touchdowns, and then they come back. They double dip with offensive line. They get center Jared Wilson, who's probably going to be your long-term answer behind Garrett Bradbury this year, an elite tester and a staple of the Georgia program over the past 3 seasons.
Okay, could be a big bump for Mike Vrabel and Drake May there in New England. We'll see how that all plays out for them. The draft, we're going to see how that plays out today. It continues starting at noon Eastern on ESPN. Jordan, thanks.
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Stephen A., always great to be with you. Nice to see you.
Shedeur Sanders didn't even get drafted in round 1. Were you surprised by that?
The longer this went on, the more it seemed like this was a possibility. It felt like the Giants weren't going to take him at 3. The Saints weren't going to take him at 9. And the one shot he had was 21 to Pittsburgh. And the Steelers talked about the idea of taking him, but there was not consensus within the organization. They needed help along their defensive line, and they opted for the Oregon defensive lineman Derek Harmon. And so Shedeur Sanders was left sitting on the board watching other quarterbacks like Jackson Dart go number 25 to the New York Giants. So when you ask if we're surprised, I think the longer this went on, the closer we got to the draft, the more we all recognized that this was possible. And when the Steelers passed on him at 21, it became a reality.
What about Jackson Dart, the Giants moving up to grab him? I didn't hear from anybody other than our very own Dan Orlovsky that Dart was going to be somebody that possibly would be taken ahead of Shedeur Sanders. That didn't throw you for a loop at all?
We talked about it in the pregame show on College Game Day. Pete Thamel pointed out that there was a possibility that Jackson Dart could go ahead of Shedeur. And look, the Giants and Saints, and I believe the Cleveland Browns as well, all really like Jackson Dart, so much so that I think each of those teams would have taken Jackson Dart ahead of Shedeur Sanders. One of the three did, and I believe the other two are in the same category as well. And so Shedeur Sanders is still sitting there right now going into round 2 on Friday night. I really think we're at the point now. The Steelers don't have a second-round draft pick. Their next pick is number 83 in the 3rd round. And you say, well, would he last till then? And it's hard to imagine that he would, but strange things have happened. And I also think that people are reacting like, oh my God, he didn't go in round 1. And he is Mel Kiper Jr.'s top-rated quarterback. Guess what? There have been a lot of quarterbacks over the years that have slipped into the second round that have gone on to have successful NFL careers. When Mel Kiper first started at ESPN in his very first year, his 3rd-rated prospect on the entire board was Boomer Esiason. Boomer Esiason went into the second round, and all he did in the National Football League was win MVP. Drew Brees fell into the second round. Jalen Hurts fell into the second round, and now Shedeur Sanders has done the same.
Adam Schefter, I always appreciate the knowledge that you drop, so help me with your perspective because I'll certainly take it from you verbatim. Covering this league the way that you have, me covering the NBA and just overall sports over the last 30 years, certainly your talent and your skill is paramount. That's primary issue number one. You've got to have the ability. But I've seen many executives sometimes make decisions because they didn't want to deal with potential headaches. Somebody that could have the ear of folks, somebody that could have the kind of influence and cachet that could disrupt whatever their vision was for their franchise. That brings me to Deion Sanders. Did that play in, did his presence, his aura, his cachet, and the fact that he's a relatively loquacious individual when he needs to be and he will speak up for himself, his son, etc., did that play any role in your mind at all in the possibility of Shedeur falling out of the first round?
Well, probably did. I mean, again, I don't want to blame Deion because that's not what we're doing. But I think when a team is drafting Shedeur, it recognizes what would come along with that. And you'd have a very famous, very accomplished father that would come along. And we wrote this in our ESPN Draft Intel column that ran on ESPN Plus last week. I said, short of Mike Tomlin, there aren't many coaches around the league that might be comfortable drafting Shedeur and knowing that if and when their seat gets warm, people in that city could be calling for his job and calling for Shedeur's dad to replace him. Like, that definitely could happen in time. I don't think Mike Tomlin would care about that, but I think there might be other coaches who would. And beyond that, I just feel like for whatever reason, Shedeur didn't have the best interview process. There were some teams that did like him. There were more that didn't. For whatever reason, it's strange to me because, again, he does have the support. And when you watch him, you see how talented he is. And the bottom line, Stephen A., is the facts speak for themselves. Every team had a chance to pick him in round 1. Nobody did. We're back at it again Friday night. More teams will have another chance to draft him. And so that's the great part about the NFL draft. You got to put your cards on the table and you see where teams stand on certain individuals. And right now you're seeing where teams stand on Shedeur Sanders.
I am worn out from watching the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. Pick after pick after pick, starting with the 2nd overall pick. I was on the edge of my seat waiting for his name to be called because he is him. He is he. He is it. He should have gone 1st overall. And the NFL should be ashamed of itself for what it has now done over 3 rounds of the draft to Shedeur Sanders. I'm worn out because I'm so sickened and I'm so saddened over what this league just did to this kid and in turn to his father. I've been doing this for a long time, You can look at my track record on the draft. I'm pretty good, especially at the quarterbacks, at picking the quarterbacks. I would have taken Shedeur Sanders first overall, and I dug in on this before the college football season even started. I would have taken him second overall if I were the Cleveland Browns. I definitely would have taken him third overall if I were the New York Football Giants. It was outrageously obvious that he's the best thrower of the football in the draft. He's the best pure passer in the draft. He's the toughest college quarterback I have ever witnessed. Over and over, watched every snap he took for 2 years at Colorado. The most deadly accurate thrower of the football in all of college football has not been drafted over 3 rounds. The clutchest quarterback I saw in all of college football, again and again and again, has not been drafted for 3 effing rounds of the draft. Why is that? Is it about football or is it personal? The NFL should be ashamed because, I don't know what you want to call this, Shedeur and his father got blackballed, or if you want to call it whiteballed, call it whiteballed. Whatever it was, they got balled out. They got voted out. It's like a secret memo was distributed. Don't take him. Let's teach him a lesson. Let's teach Dion a lesson. You can't act like that. It's got to be personal because it cannot be about football.